All right, someone needs to give me a flip back for chapter 11, which was called Will We See You Again Soon, Peter? Is your hand up or not? Okay. Avery, go ahead.
They opened the casket and there's blankets and coats inside.
Yes.
And the woman with the baby finally talked.
Yes.
The girl.
Yeah.
And
little Rachel.
They were getting like all the sweaters and coats that were in the casket, and then I think it was Peter. He like took aside was it the man? Or was it Mr. Rosen?
Yes.
And he handed him this little box basically to give to Heinrich.
A packet of sorts, right?
Like it was random, and he was like kind of confused. And then Anne-Marie noticed and could hear, and it was like suspicious of them.
True. And again, he didn't ask what it was. He didn't tell him what it was. So another time of where being brave is easier if you don't know everything.
Said, maybe it's good that Mr. Rosen because he could be scared.
Absolutely. So gave him the packet, and his instructions were to do what with it, Caden? What does Mr. Rosen have to do with that packet?
I don't think it said where he had to deliver it, but I think it did.
To who? No, that is not what it said. Where does he have to give it to? Heinrich has to get it. He said it's of utmost importance that Heinrich gets this. So Mr. Rosen has that job. Yes. Right. So Anne-Marie kind of put the plan together. We realized who these friends of Great Aunt Bertie were other Jewish people. And Anne-Marie's like, well, that's why they're going to the boat. They're going to go across the sea to Sweden.
How did they order an empty casket with
Probably just made. So a lot of old caskets were just literally wood hammered together. So I'm guessing they probably, the extravagant measures they go to get these people out is pretty crazy, right? Like what they would do. So again, one of the questions was, why would they have this giant fake funeral? Like, why would they do it? Bernsey. Yeah, why would they have to make up a funeral? Gigi. Yes. What else? Yeah. Yeah, this group of people can't just get together, right? And especially, who are you? Who are you? Who are you? So in a funeral kind of thing, they wouldn't ask that. Hopefully, well, they didn't. Yeah.
They also invited because they didn't want the kids to know.
Yes.
And these dudes just randomly came. I don't know how they invited them because that's weird.
Like how'd they get there?
Like how they know where to go and
True.
stuff. And I think it's good for them but scary because they're Jews.
Yeah. And you know you're being hunted. Like you literally know they're coming after you right now. So at first it was kind of like, well, they might come. Now it's like they are coming for you now. Like they know for sure they're coming for you. That one little part too, give the little baby the drops. That was one of the questions too. Why would they want the baby to go to sleep? Obviously they didn't want it to what? Cry. So whatever they're doing, yeah, they don't want to blow the cover. They don't want them to know that wherever they're at or wherever they're going, they don't want to know that. Okay? All right, I think that was it, man. That was a big chapter, and that was it. The last line they said was Anne-Marie finally put the plan together. She knew they were going on the boat. She knew they were going to Sweden. And she thought about Ellen's mom because how scared she was of the ocean. So we'll see. That is very true. Yeah. All right, where was Mama? Huh. All right, so real quick, let's think again. They were taking two groups of people, right? Old man and the baby, and that group was going first, right? Mr. Rosen, I think, or maybe not. No, it was the old lady, or the old man with the beard, and the couple with the baby. And then Mama was going to bring the Rosens next, right? Yeah. Oh, my God, yes. Yes, you heard that correctly. Someone asked to go to the potty. Go to this bathroom right here. Let me kill this airtime here. Let me ask you another question here. Oh, let's go back to page 93 real quick while we wait. She said it's an odd word, pride. First of all, what is if you're pride? If you have pride, what does that mean? How you feel?
Brave.
Yes, Grayson.
Proud.
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to use the word pride without saying the word proud, right? But what all these things they said that make them proud. Him having his job, him, reading over his school books, her being an actress, Mama having her hair put together and looking nice and doing the Sabbath stuff. So saying now she looked at them and they looked like bums now, right? I mean, not saying in a bad way, but like clothes that don't fit. They're scared. They're tired. They're in the middle of being like basically smuggled into another country. So that sense of pride, she said, might have been gone. But the last line she said, their shoulders were straight as they had been in the past. So not everything was left behind. It is. That'd be kind of hard to still be proud of everything when you're on the run from killers. You know what I mean?
And you can actually die.
Absolutely. It's literally a matter of life and death now. Literally.
Have you played Fashion? No, I hate Fashion.
Oh, hey, real quick. Some of you yesterday answered this question way too literally. Listen to what the question was. It says, what does Peter give to Mr. Rosen? Some of you put a sweater, which was true. He gave him a sweater at the beginning. But what I was looking for is the packet, right? So then when I went to what did Mr. Rosen do, he needed to do what with the packet? Give it to Heinrich. That went to G also, which said, what did Emery realize about the plan? Well, those don't really go together, but the first two together, like some of you put, he gave him a sweater. Well, yeah, we know he gave him a sweater, but we were talking about the packet, right? That was the important part. Yes, that was the big part. All right, here we go. Chapter 12, Where Was Mama? Mr. Rosen tripped on the loose step outside the kitchen door. His wife grasped his arm, and he regained his balance. It's very dark. Mama whispered as they stood in the yard with their blankets and bundles of food gathered in their arms. We can't use any kind of light. I'll go first. I know the way very well, and you follow me. Try not to stumble over the tree roots in the path. Feel carefully with your feet. The path is uneven. And be very, very quiet, she added, unnecessarily. The night was quiet too. A light breeze moved in the tops of the trees, and from across the meadow came the sound of the sea's movement, which was a constant sound here and had always been. But no birds called or cried here now in the night. The cow slept silently in the barn, the kitten upstairs in Kirsty's arms. There were stars here and there dotting the sky among the clouds, but no moon. Anne-Marie shivered, standing at the foot of the steps. Come, Mama murmured, and she moved away from the house. One by one the Rosens turned and hugged Anne-Marie silently. Ellen came to her last. The two girls held each other. That's their best friend right here, right? I'll come back someday, Ellen whispered fiercely. I promise. I know you will, Anne-Marie whispered back, holding her friend tightly. And then they were gone. Mama and the Rosens. Anne-Marie was alone. She went into the house, crying suddenly, and closed the door against the night. The lid of the casket was closed again. Now the room was empty. There was no sign of people who had sat there for those hours. Anne-Marie wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. She opened the dark curtains on the windows. She curled once more in the rocker, trying to relax. She traced their route in her mind. She knew the old path, too. Not as well as her mother, who had followed it almost every day of her childhood with her dog scampering behind. But Anne Marie had often walked to town and back that way, and she remembered the turns, the twisted trees whose gnarled roots pushed the earth now and then into knotted clumps, and the thick bushes that often flowered in the early summer. She walked with them in her mind, feeling the way through the darkness. It would take them, she thought, half an hour to reach the place where Uncle Heinrich was waiting with the boat. Mama would leave them there, pausing a minute, no more, for a final hug. And then she would turn and come home. It would be faster for Mama alone, with no need to wait as the Rosens, unfamiliar with the path, slowly felt their way along. Mama would hurry, sure-footed now, back to the children. The clock in the hall struck once. It was 2:30 in the morning. Her mother would be home in an hour, Anne Marie decided. She rocked gently back and forth in her old chair. Mama would be home by 3:30. She thought of Papa, back in Copenhagen alone. He would awake too. He would be wishing he could have come, but knowing, too, that he must come and go as always, to the corner store for the newspaper, to his office when the morning came. Now he would be afraid for them, and watching the clock, waiting for a word that the Rosens were safe, that Mama and the girls were here at the farm, starting a new day with the sun shining through the kitchen window and cream on their oatmeal. It was harder for the ones who were waiting, Anne Marie knew. Less danger, perhaps, but more fear. I'm just going to stop that line. It was harder for the ones who were waiting. Less dangerous, but more fear. You ever had someone go somewhere and you worried about them the whole time, wanting them to come back home?
Yes.
And they were gone and not even worried about it at all, they were just doing what they were supposed to be doing. But you at home were totally nervous and worried, waiting for them to come back. And, yeah, exactly. Don't get in a wreck or make sure you're safe. So Anne Marie's feeling that way right now. Her mom is gone. You know what I mean? Trying to take them. So for her mom might not be scared or even the moment doing it, but her right now is worried. Absolutely. She yawned, and her head nodded. She fell asleep, and it was a sleep as thin as night clouds, dotted with dreams that came and went like stars. Light woke her. But it's not really morning, not yet. It's only the first hint of slightly lightening sky. A pale gleam at the edge of the meadow, a sign that far away somewhere, to the east where Sweden still slept, morning would soon be coming. Dawn would creep across the Swedish farmlands and coast, and then it would wash little Denmark with light and move across the North Sea to wake Norway. Anne Marie blinked in confusion, sitting up, remembering after a moment where she was and why. But it wasn't right. The pale light on the horizon. It should still be dark. It should still be night. She stood stiffly, stretching her legs, and went to the hall to look at the old clock. It was past 4 o'clock. Where was Mama? Perhaps she'd come home and not wanted to wake Anne Marie, and had gone to bed herself. Surely that was it. Mama must have been exhausted. She had been up all night, and made a dangerous journey to the boat, and returned through the dark woods, wanting only to sleep. Quickly, Anne Marie went up to the narrow staircase. The door to the bedroom where she had slept with Ellen was open. The 2 small beds were neatly made, covered with old quilts, and empty. Beside it, Uncle Heinrich's door was open too, and his bed too was unused and empty. Despite her worry, Anne Marie smiled slightly when she saw some of Heinrich's clothes crumpled in a chair, and a pair of shoes, caked with barnyard dirt, lying on the floor. He needs a wife, she said to herself, imitating Mama. To the door to the other bedroom, the one Kirsty and Mama were sharing, was closed. Quietly, not wanting to wake them, Anne Marie pushed it open. The kitten's ears moved, standing up straight. Its eyes opened wide, and it raised its head and yawned. It pried itself out of Kirsty's arms, stretched, and then jumped lightly to the floor and came to Anne Marie. It rubbed itself against her leg and purred. Kirsty sighed and turned in her sleep, one arm free now of the kitten's warmth and comfort, flung itself across the pillow. There was no one else in the wide bed. Anne-Marie moved quickly to the window, which overlooked a clearing that led to the path's entrance. The light outside was still very dim. She peered through the dimness, trying to see, looking for the opening in the trees where the path began, looking for Mama hurrying home. After a second, she saw a shape there, something unfamiliar, something that had not been there the day before. A dark shape, no more than a blurred heap at the beginning of the path. Anne-Marie squinted, forcing her eyes to understand, needing to understand, not wanting to understand. The shape moved, and she knew it was her mother lying on the earth.
I don't think she's dead.
Read it or not? All right, here we go. Here we go. Run as fast as you can. Still moving quietly so not to wake her sister, Anne-Marie sped down the stairs and through the kitchen door. Her foot caught the loose step and she faltered for a moment, righting herself, then dashed across the ground to the place where her mother lay. "Mama!" she called desperately. "Mama!" "Shh," Mama said, raising her head. "I'm all right." "But Mama," Anne-Marie asked, kneeling beside her. "What's wrong? What happened?" Her mother pulled herself to a sitting position. She winced in pain. "I'm all right, really. Don't worry. And the Rosens are with Heinrich. That's the important thing." She smiled a little, though her face was drawn with pain as she bit her lip, the smile fading. "We got there quite quickly, even though it was still so dark, and it was difficult for the Rosens, not knowing the path. Heinrich was there waiting on the boat, and he took them aboard and down below so quickly to the cabin that they were invisible in an instant. He said the others were already there. Peter got them there, too, safely. So I turned and hurried home. I was so anxious to get back to you girls. I should have been more careful." Talking softly, she brushed some grass and dirt from her hands. "Can you believe it? I was nearly here, well, maybe halfway, when I tripped over a root and went sprawling." Mama sighed. "So clumsy," she said, as if she were scolding herself. "I'm afraid my ankle is broken, Anne-Marie. Thank goodness it's nothing worse. An ankle mends, and I am home, and the Rosens are with Heinrich." "You should have seen me, Anne-Marie," she said, shaking her head with a wry look. "Your proper Mama, crawling inch by inch. I probably looked like a drunkard." She reached for Anne-Marie's arm. "Here, let me lean on you. I think if you support me on this side, I can make my way up to the house." Goodness, what a clumsy fool I am. "Here, let me put my arm over your shoulders. You're such a good, strong, brave girl. Now, very slowly. There." Mama's face was white with pain. Anne-Marie could see it even though the faint light of approaching dawn. She hobbled, leaning heavily on her daughter, pausing again and again toward the house. "When we get inside, I'll have a cup of tea and then we'll call the doctor. I'll tell him that I fell on the stairs. You'll have to help me wash away the grass and twigs. Here, Anne-Marie, let me rest for a minute." They had reached the house, and Mama sank down to the steps and sat. She took several deep breaths. Anne-Marie sat beside her and held her hand. "Mama, I was so worried when you didn't come back." Mama nodded. "I knew you would be. I thought of you, worrying, as I dragged myself along. But here I am, safe with you now. Everything's fine." "What time is it?" Must be 4:30 or close to it." "They will sail soon." Mama turned her head and gazed across the meadow to the sea and the vast sky above it. There were no stars now, only the gray, pale sky with pinkness at its border. Soon they will be safe, too. Anne-Marie relaxed. She stroked her mother's hand and looked down at the discolored, swollen ankle. "Mama, what is this?" she asked suddenly, reaching into the grass at the foot of the steps. Mama looked. She gasped. "Oh my God," she said. Anne Marie picked it up. She recognized it now and knew what it was. It was the packet that Peter had given to Mr. Rosen. Mr. Rosen tripped on the step, remember? It must have fallen from his pocket. We'll have to save it and give it back to Peter. Anne Marie handed it to her mother. "Do you know what it is?" Her mother didn't answer. Her face was stricken. She looked at the path and then down at her ankle. "It's important, isn't it, Mama? It was for Uncle Heinrich. I remember Peter said it was very important. I heard him tell Mr. Rosen." Her mother tried to stand but fell back against the steps with a groan. "My God," she murmured again. "It may have all been for nothing." Anne Marie took the packet from her mother's hand and stood. "I will take it," she said. "I know the way, and I'm almost light now. I can run like the wind." Mama spoke quickly, her voice tense. "Anne Marie, go into the house and get a small basket on the table. Quickly, quickly. Put an apple into it and some cheese. Put the packet underneath. Do you understand? Hurry." Anne Marie did instantly what she was told. The basket, the packet at the bottom. She covered it with a napkin, and then some wrapped cheese, an apple. She glanced around the kitchen and saw some bread and added that. The little basket was full. She took it where her mother was. "You must run to the boat. If anyone should stop you." "Who would stop me?" "Anne Marie, you understand how dangerous this is. If any soldiers see you, if they stop you, you must pretend to be nothing more than a little girl. A silly, empty-headed little girl taking lunch to a fisherman, a foolish uncle who forgot his bread and cheese." "Mama, what is it in the bottom?" But her mother still didn't answer the question. "Go," she said firmly. "Go right now and run as fast as you can." Anne Marie kissed her mother quickly, grabbed the basket from her mother's lap, turned, and ran toward the path. Okay.
Mr. Schaefer, what if in the package is Ellen's necklace?
I don't know. Okay, that is your question for today.